back to Esoterica. I'm James.
And I'm Anthony.
And we're stoked to be back here for episode 4 of our podcast. We were talking last week a little bit about TV programs, about what we thought of TV programs, about Anthony's enduring love for The Big Bang Theory.
Big fan.
And we sort of touched a little bit. We touched a little bit on the topic of gatekeeping, and at the time we sort of very rashly promised an episode on gatekeeping.
Get used to that, by the way.
Rash promises.
Rash promises that we don't deliver on. I think I struck a chord there. They got personal very quickly.
Yeah. Giving away all of our secrets right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And we were like, yes, let's do an episode of gatekeeping. And then we sort of talked about this throughout the week, and then kind of went, actually, what are we going to talk about other than don't do it? It's bad, y'all. Yeah. Drugs are bad, okay?
Yeah. I mean, gatekeeping, for those of you who aren't familiar, I don't know if you switched off last week, which is probably a good coping mechanism.
Judging by our downloads, I would say that it's
yeah, I can actually, it's probably now a good point to just say a nice shout out to some of our international listeners as well. I struggled with that, didn't I?
You did, yeah.
I did. Articulation is not on the clock today. So we have listeners in the United States of America.
Good God.
Norway.
Wow.
And United Arab Emirates, i.e. Craig. Hi, Craig.
Hi, Craig.
Do they let you listen to podcasts?
Yeah, I was going to say, he's illegally streaming this through a VPN.
It's hotspotting it through a satellite.
Yeah.
UN satellite or something.
Absolutely.
Producer Caroline has very kindly brought up some statistics.
Because that's what everybody wants to hear is statistics.
Yep.
That's what everybody tunes in here for. Accurate statistics.
Login record. Maybe a screenshot, Caroline.
Yeah.
We'll try and decipher the. We'll see how good our geography is, eh?
Uh-oh. You're going to put me on the spot here.
Yeah. I did guess them, though.
Did you?
When I was looking at the countries, yeah. Had an argument with producer Caroline about it. She insisted UAE wasn't UAE.
See, I'm going to feel very put on the spot here. I in another life, I teach social science, so my geography's supposed to be reasonably good.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, it just gives you the names. I thought you were going to put up some map for me that I was going to have to
there is a map.
Weirdly decipher who was going on.
There is a map as well. So we've got, on this list, we've got New Zealand, United Arab Emirates.
Hi, Craig.
Hi, Craig. United Kingdom. Hi, James's family. United States.
I don't know anyone.
I don't know anyone in the. Unless it's. I've got 2 friends living in the United States at the moment.
Well, that accounts for 2 out of the 3 downloads from the United States.
So possibly hi, Kieran and Tanani. Spain.
Hi, Hugh.
It's Hugh in Spain at the moment.
Spain.
Oh, very good.
That's my brother. Yeah.
And Norway.
I don't know anyone in Norway.
No, and that's quite cool. That's quite exciting. Yeah,
it is exciting. We're going global.
Yeah.
That was a brilliant
the trepidation.
Yeah.
As you know, James is famous for his segues.
That's right. Well, that. I'm literally lost for words, Anthony. I'm literally lost for words.
It doesn't happen often.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't happen often. But that was that's really cool.
That's
really
neat.
cool.
That's very neat.
And so, look, despite the jokes before, thank you for those of you that do listen to us.
Yeah, genuinely.
Do download this podcast. It's always nice for us to connect with you guys and to see your comments and feedback and that sort of stuff. So thank you all. But we were talking a bit about gatekeeping and what a bad thing it was and why people shouldn't do it and these communities that have gatekeepers. And we very rashly promised a podcast on gatekeepers and then realised that actually we couldn't do one.
Yeah.
Not and have it be interesting, really.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about gatekeeping, but it's not it's not that. I mean, it's stuff we already know. It's essentially boiled down to the fact that don't alienate people from a community that is niche and that people, think about yourself. Think about the first time you tried joining a community and you were probably felt very alone and maybe a little bit excited about joining it.
Yeah, and look, it's something that I'm reasonably passionate about. Being a teacher, like it's the idea of somebody who's discovering something for the first time, and it's awesome to relive what it was like for you to discover that for the first time, and for those things that we choose to love, those fandoms that we choose to be a part of, those communities that we choose to be a part of in our everyday lives outside of work, those sorts of things. Welcome people into those. Remember what it was like for you the first time you went on there. And if it was a poor experience, then make sure that nobody else that's joining your community has that experience. And if it was a great experience, then replicate that. Be that person that people go to and want to talk to because, you're always open or always ready to answer questions or whatever. Both Anthony and I love theatre. Love musical theatre, and I think we'd both say that we have only been able to do the things that we've done in theatre and things like that because people within those communities took us under their wings and showed us the ropes, explained things. Yeah, quite literally. Yeah, explained things, explained why they were doing things, how things worked, that sort of stuff, and so. Our ability now to be involved in that community is directly related to the fact that somebody at some point welcomed us into that community. So don't be a gatekeeper. Don't be that person that sits there and says, "Oh well, you can't be a real fan or you can't be a real lover of this because you don't know this or you don't know the other." Welcome people in.
Set the tone that you want for your community.
Yeah,
enrich it. Don't complain when the community's not going your way. When all you're expelling is negativity.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. So that's about us on
right, so that's the podcast for today.
That's it. Thank you for doing
Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in. No, so that's all we really wanted to say about gatekeeping. But there was something else that sort of caught our eye a little bit as we were heading through the week, as these things sort of tend to do. And this was a little bit about millennials. Millennials. You see, I was...
The NZ Herald just shuddered.
Killing everything.
Yeah. The hair on the back of its neck stood up.
That's right. The ripples just went out.
Yeah.
But I rather surprisingly just found out that apparently I am a millennial. Now, this was incredibly surprising to me. I didn't realise I was a millennial because I always sort of thought the kids that I taught were millennials, not me. Like I was was born in 1982. Grew up in the 80s, went to school, and most of the 90s. I'm the graduating class of 2000. I didn't consider myself a millennial, and apparently I'm in the same generation as anybody who was born right up to 1996, I think it was. Yeah, 1996.
Yeah.
And that sort of blew me away a little bit because I'm like, I don't know how much I have in common with people who were born in 1996, to be honest.
It's very odd. I mean, even just with James and I mean, we lived very, very different childhoods. I mean, I grew up with things like the birth of the internet and widespread use of technology and that spread of knowledge and you saw things like the .com boom and greater prevalence of technology in the workforce and things and James certainly didn't grow up with that.
No, I'm old. Thanks, Anthony.
But it was. That's not to say that James doesn't understand it. He does.
I don't.
He doesn't. You should see his web browser with all the pop-ups.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I've got lots of friends. Apparently these women keep wanting to meet me. I don't know.
Uses Internet Explorer. He has to get his younger friends to try and fix his computer all the time.
I don't understand why it's not working anymore. Yeah. No, but we were going through and so I have to say I found this a bit surprising. And so we started looking into it a little bit and found lots of different articles and things that talked about how awful millennials were. How awful we are, how we're destroying every single industry known to man, how we're all selfish and entitled and lazy and all of those wonderful adjectives.
Yeah.
And so we were having a bit of a chat, Anthony and I, this week about how we felt about that and whether we thought that was true or not. And I tend to think that it isn't. I work with lots of young people. I see wonderful things in young people and wonderfully creative ways, and I think there are a lot of myths and things that are put out there about young people. I think we young people work incredibly hard, and I know that sort of flies in the face of prevailing wisdom to say, but I think young people work incredibly hard. Certainly, I think kids at school today work much harder than I ever did at school.
Is that right?
Absolutely. Like, think about it. So, whenever I was at school, we had exams at the end of the year. That sort of tested out, apparently everything that you'd learned through the year, blah, 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 blah. You had to have a decent knowledge of the subject in order to actually pass your exam. But what that meant, right, was that you could just focus on learning what it was that you needed to learn in class. You learned everything. Everything was of value. You didn't know whether it was going to be in the exam or not. So you sort of sat there and you focused on the learning and that sort of stuff. And that was fine, right? Kids these days, they still have exams. Okay, they're not worth 100% of their overall grade for the year, but they still have exams at the end of the year. But they do so many assessments through the year. So the example that I always use is if you think about an English exam, for example. Now, I might sit there in the past and say, right, you're going to do an exam at the end of the year. You're going to write about the text you studied, that sort of stuff. Fine. I'm going to extrapolate your ability to your grasp of English through that one exam, right? Cool. You study for that exam, you study content, you study all that sort of stuff. When I have to break that out over the year, I go, right, okay, well, what I'm going to do is I need to assess you on content, right? I need to assess you on this book that we've done, or this text that we've done, or this whatever. I also need to examine you on form. So I need to make sure that you can construct a sentence properly, construct a paragraph properly, that sort of thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an assessment purely on that. But I can't give you an assessment that's 5 minutes long. I've got to give you a proper assessment, right? So you have to sit there and you have to come up with an assessment, and these kids have to sit an assessment, that's rigorous enough just to test that one aspect. Now, when you were doing an exam at the end of the year, that would be extrapolated from how you wrote. So you would sit there and go, okay, I've written my essay on King Lear, and the English teacher has sat there and gone, oh, well, I can see that through your essay you've managed to use good structure, you've used all that kind of stuff. So you extrapolate that information. You use the one assessment opportunity to assess multiple things. Yeah. Now we take all of those multiple things and do an individual assessment for each one. And so kids work incredibly hard. Kids, there are times when I talk to my students that they will sit there and say to me, oh, I've got 6 or 7 assessments this week.
Wow.
At school.
Wow. So I actually have a question for you, James. So when you, because there's a bit of a generalization now, and you see this all the time. I think it's incredibly unfair, and I don't think it's helpful in any capacity that teachers these days are quite soft. You tend to get this from the older generation, the baby boomers.
You mean the people who left school at 14?
Can we flag that minute mark, the first mention of baby boomers?
Yeah. The people who left school at 14 and went and got a job.
Yeah. Went into labour or trades and things. So how would you describe your teachers, when you were growing up in the 80s? In terms of teaching style, or perhaps how they dealt with behaviour, or
I think that I mean,
bearing in mind 80s is a little bit. It's
think
not that long ago.
I mean, I think the biggest thing, and I think the biggest shift in that sort of stuff is whenever I went to school, at least primary school anyway, we still learnt with things like rote learning and all that sort of stuff. You know, you did your times tables by rote, you did, you know, those sorts of things by rote. So,
I think
very,
I did too.
very old school kind of teaching. This sounds like a horrific thing to say. I think the biggest change in teaching is not it's not teachers themselves to a certain extent. However, I would say that I work with some phenomenal people who really care about the kids that they teach, and I'm sure that teachers were like that many years ago as well. The biggest thing I think that's changed in teaching is support from the parents.
Wow. Okay.
So the difference is that I think that the prevailing attitude many years ago was that if the teacher said something, that's what went. If the child did something, then it was clearly the child at fault. I think that's changed, and again, not in all cases, but I think that's changed a lot into parents now feel that, or generally tend to blame the teacher rather than the child if something's gone wrong. It's the teacher's fault. The teacher didn't do this. The teacher didn't cater for this perceived need, or the teacher didn't understand that my child finds your lessons boring, and so therefore you should change your lessons to be more exciting to engage my child, because of course they're not going to pay attention to you if you're boring.
Yeah.
Actual conversation.
Wow.
So I think that's a big shift, and how this ties into our millennial thing is then I think that kids generally work very hard, but it isn't millennials that are coming in and having those conversations with teachers.
No.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's parents. And there's a lot of pressure on kids. A lot of pressure on kids.
Huge,
a lot of
huge.
pressure on kids to achieve. So, they talk about educational outcomes, and they talk about the fact that, in my mother's generation, if you had a degree, you were sorted. You were, you were guaranteed a job that was going to pay well, that, was going to give you a career, those kinds of things. Now they sit there and said, well, actually for the kids that are leaving school at the moment, in order to get this, an equivalent kind of job, or even to get their foot in the door for a number of jobs, they're going to have masters. You have to have master's degrees, not even bachelor's degrees, master's degrees.
And how many years is that? I mean,
generally,
combined with the degree,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years at university.
6 years at university, raking up debt.
Yep.
Wow.
To
Compared to the generation above,
yep,
who largely went to university for free.
Yep.
Just to be blunt.
Yep.
Blunt, who could, save over the summer and put down a down payment.
So I don't think millennials are lazy at all. And in fact, most of the kids that I know at school, a big chunk of them have jobs outside of going to school. A big chunk of them work part-time jobs and things like that to earn some money and that sort of thing, to earn some money towards university, to earn some money towards being able to get a car, or that sort of stuff. They don't stop.
No.
They work all the time. I mean, I could probably count on one hand the amount of people that I, whenever I was at school, is probably a slight exaggeration, but, certainly people who had outside jobs were in the minority. Most kids went to school. That was their primary focus. It was their education. Now, most kids I know have some form of outside job, as well as going to school. I think these kids work incredibly hard. So this idea of being lazy, I think is insane. I really do. I think it's absolutely insane.
And it's always been that way, hasn't it? I mean, was it Socrates who said, that classic quote? He said, this new breed of child coming through is lazy and it's the same
lazy
thing.
Entitled.
It's the same thing. You could
yeah.
copy and literally copy and paste articles.
Absolutely.
The next,
Yeah. But where does this stem from? You see, so I think the problem with millennials, or this idea of young people being lazy, being entitled, being glued to their devices, everything else like that, destroying the world, everything else like that. I'm also going to put out there, a very good friend of mine who listens to this podcast, a very good friend of mine once said to me, and I think it's incredibly true. He said, it's not millennials who voted for Trump.
No.
It's not millennials who, have created a giant ocean, plastic island in the middle of the ocean. It's not millennials that have eroded the integrity of a large amount of journalism or those kinds of things, reporting, those kinds of things. That isn't on millennials.
No.
It's not millennials that have done that. It's the generation above.
And also, how would a millennial? We've sort of, when James and I have been talking earlier, we've sort of talked about this a little bit. How would millennials be able to dictate that kind of thing anyway? I mean, and what I mean by that is, so when a millennial enters the workforce, for example, you're answerable to people, to seniors, to people that are older than you. So really, I mean, in terms of change, and you now see, and you see it all the time, grassroots movements and stuff, which are really inspiring, especially on social media.
Yep.
And actually, if you ever want to feel good about this generation, go on social media.
Yep.
Because there's a huge presence of young people who are trying to do good.
But I mean, you look at the shootings in the United States, right?
Yeah.
You look at the shootings in the United States. Who was it that came out and turned around and went, we actually have to be having a conversation about gun control. This is insane. It was students.
It was students. And who were the ones criticizing those students for trying to make it political?
Yeah.
And how insane is that? Accusing... Yeah. I mean, that's a whole different conversation. But having the nerve to turn to a student who just endured a horrific tragedy and...
Absolutely.
Among classmates and friends and...
Yeah. And said, oh, well, now's not the time.
Now's not the time. Tell us when is the time.
Now's not the time. We shouldn't be having this conversation. No. And look, if it, like, and again, I don't want this to come across as a rant on older generations, but
no.
If I had a dime for every time somebody had said to me, oh, now's not the time. Oh, well, I don't know that we should be having that conversation.
Wait your turn,
now.
James.
Wait your turn.
You'll get your chance. Pat on the head. And you can't see it, but as I said those words, James just grimaced,
visibly shuddered.
Yeah,
like it's something you get told all the time.
Yeah,
wait your turn. Oh, it'll happen one day. Just keep taking along. And look, again, I don't think that young people are averse to that. I don't think that young people think that they shouldn't have to work hard or that they shouldn't have to learn or anything else like that. But this comes down to the conversation that we've had on many times. We've had many times, on many occasions, or many times. Can't get my England out. It's because I was brunged up real proper like.
It's because you're a millennial.
It's because I'm a millennial. Single-handedly destroying the English language.
Yeah. It's all the emojis.
Yeah. Can I even speak anymore? I don't know. This is the first time I've talked to anybody outside, of a virtual space all week. I just don't engage with anybody in the real life because that's what my generation does.
It's a bit different from News Talk ZB. I don't mean that as a slight on News Talk ZB. I actually... Why do I do that? I have this compulsion to...
I don't know, you watch, tune in for our new show on News Talk ZB.
I wouldn't say no. Having a broader sort of perspective would be...
But this brings back to the kind of idea of experience versus ability.
Aye.
Now, this is a topic Anthony and I have talked about a lot. This idea of experience versus ability. There are arguments, obviously, to be made for both. However, I would say that society in general, I think, has undergone a massive shift. A massive shift and a massive change. I was saying to Anthony earlier on, I would say it's probably the equivalent of the 60s and the sexual revolution and everything else like that of the 60s.
Huge social change.
Huge social change and huge conflict between parents and kids because there was massive social change. And I believe that we're going through a very similar kind of change. We're going through a technological revolution where the way society and community functioned 10 years ago, 15 years ago, is no longer the way that it does now. So, this is where I come back to experience versus ability. And don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking experience. I really am not.
Oh, it's very important.
However, where young people, I think, are very valuable is that they have a argument or a perspective that truly is different and harnessed correctly can be incredibly powerful to any business, any society, any community that is wanting to move wholeheartedly into the 21st century. Young people have a dynamic and interesting view on traditional problems or traditional hurdles. And I'm not turning around and saying that you should necessarily dump everybody and put young people in charge.
No.
But what I'm saying is that young people should have a very clear voice in your business or your community or whatever else it is that you're looking at doing. Because far from destroying things, is the accusation often is, millennials are destroying the avocado industry or millennials are destroying the diamond industry.
How are we destroying the avocado?
I love our avocado. I know. Well, apparently that's why we have no money, is because all we do is eat avocado, smashed avocados on toast.
Again, thanks NZ Herald for your startling insight.
Yeah. My personal favourite was millennials are destroying the diamond industry. Yes.
Is that another Mike Hosking column?
Why are we destroying the diamond industry? Because we can't afford to buy frickin' diamonds.
No. And maybe because we now have the technology and the information at disposal that the diamond industry is a sham. And that it's a very closely regulated economy where they will lie about finding huge diamond deposits.
Oh, absolutely.
Just to, artificially increase the prices of diamonds.
Absolutely.
That's so romantic.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Buy one today.
Yeah. And talking about one of my favourite sort of things I've found recently, it wasn't recent now, but on the internet about experience was a job listing from one of the Fortune 500 companies. For you need at least 4 years experience in it. And it was in a programming language, which had been around for 2 years.
Well, it's like that.
Yeah.
It's like that.
I think we can all relate to that. You need at least this much.
It's like that catch-22, isn't it? That you often come across with young people or people who are trying to enter the job market for the first time. That whole idea of looking for an entry-level position.
Junior,
must have experience. Or, and you have all these poor young people running around in the cycle of I need a job to get experience, but I don't have experience to get a job. Like,
Yeah, that's right.
And really, they're just looking for something, that one crack that will get them the shoe in the door. And again, the nature of job hunting has changed, and the nature of how people go about getting jobs. Like, again, I have friends who, at various stages of their lives have been, looking for jobs and that sort of stuff. And, the one thing is, as soon as you go to a party or something like that where there are, are older people there, and he says, I'm looking for work. And you're like, oh, well, have you taken your CV into, stores and things? If you really tried that, if you really went in and just, gave them your CV and stuff, you'll get a job. And it's like,
no, James,
that's actually not how
what you need to do is you need to go down to your local butchery, your neighbourhood bookstore, you pick up the mop, and you start mopping, and before you know it, you've got a 5 days a week job.
Yeah, down at the milk bar.
Down the milk bar. You walk in there and you pull up your bootstraps.
Yeah. And you just get yourself a job.
You strap on your job helmet.
Yeah.
And you launch yourself into job space.
Yeah. And
you go see the local.
Yeah.
Go and see Darcy down the ways.
Yeah. Go and see my stamp man. He'll sort you out with a job.
Your local stamp.
Yeah. No, but this is a very valid point. Like, you don't have those kinds of businesses anymore. No. And even the businesses that you do have in town, and I can tell you that for the majority of you, the majority of businesses that you have in town are multinational corporations. Run them. Most of your clothing stores, most of your outlets of any variety are multinational chains, or at least big national chains. And I can tell you that, having worked in management myself, I can tell you that the majority, the big shift in authority from whenever I started as a manager through to whenever I ended my career as a retail manager, is that you don't have the huge authority to hire and fire. So it used to be that I remember when I got my first job, I walked in the door of the store, gave them my CV, because there was a, notice in the window, gave them my CV.
You didn't have to apply online?
No. I gave them my CV, and I went in and did an interview, and a week later I had the job, right? I can tell you right now that what happens is the job gets listed online, if there is a job. Sometimes they'll stick a sign in the window. You can drop your CV in, that's fine. But it's not up to the manager whether you get the job. That job then goes off to, these people then go off to HR. HR kind of does a background check, make
Shoots
sure
up
you're
to
right. You then maybe get an interview. That then goes back to HR, who then kind of, call your references, do maybe a secondary interview with a regional manager, everything else. Like, the process of getting a job is no longer you walk in 1 week, drop a CV off, and potentially start on the floor the next week. The process is now you go in, drop a CV off, do maybe 2 to 3 interviews, potentially have a job in 6 weeks, 7 weeks, once it's, your CV's gone back and forth to Auckland, people have made decisions,
how many
contracts
middlemen
have been
can
signed.
we involve?
Absolutely. So, this idea of walking in, pulling up your bootstraps and just mopping the floor. Yeah,
and also, we all know this. We all know. It's who you know. It's as much who you know.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
There's not really much more to say on that. It's who you know. It is.
Absolutely.
We've all had this experience.
Absolutely.
Some people know more people than others.
Yeah.
And therefore, getting the foot in the door is a little bit easier.
But I want to make one point, and I've always found this slightly funny, right? Millennials are told all the time. Millennials are told, you're lazy, you're self-centered, you're arrogant, you are entitled, you don't know anything.
It's very inspiring, isn't it?
It is. It's very inspiring. Okay, so number one, how do you think people are going to feel whenever they're told that sort of stuff in the media? Like, this is not even this is jokingly face to face. Like, you go to any barbecue or anything else like that as a young person, and thank God, even though I am a millennial, I'm clearly a closet millennial because I look too old to be considered to be a millennial. But
I don't know.
no, I thank you. But you watch the way that young people get talked to, and it's very patronising, very condescending. Well, you're just lazy. Back in my day, I would have done this, I've done that. Back in my day, you're just lazy and on your phones all the time and don't do anything. Okay, yeah. But I also want to say, what's the flip side of that? Whenever you're a kid, what is the one thing your parents say to you over and over and over and over again?
Bring up dark memory.
You're special. You can do anything that you want. You're unique. Nobody else is like you. You are the most special person in the world. Oh no, it's not your fault. It's the teacher's fault that you didn't pass this.
Participation award.
We should get the participation award because I can't have you feeling bad that you didn't win or anything else like that. Now this gets leveled at millennials all the time, but this isn't driven by millennials. It's not millennials sitting there going, we should get a participation award for going. It's the parents of millennials who sit there and go, well, how come my child didn't get recognised for doing it? How come my child... Yeah, it's not
Talking of
millennials.
entitlement, how entitled is it to have the audacity to storm into a principal's office and explain to them that they're wrong about how they, as a professional who has spent years in education and probably numerous years of, here's a word that you baby boomers will understand, experience, teaching, for you to then question their
professional
knowledge, their professional knowledge or their tact when it comes to these situations.
Just a caveat on that. My school community is very good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for employing me.
Yeah.
These are purely my opinions and not the opinions of the school that I come from.
Yeah.
These in no way represent the opinions of my school.
And can I just say as well, I like what's been really shocking for me, and I don't mean to come across as licking boots or anything, but one thing I found very bizarre, it has been bizarre for me personally in the last year. I've started a new job at the start of this year. It has been unusual for me in that I'm young at the company I'm at. The printing industry is in general it's got an older age bracket. But whenever I've put forward ideas or discussed ideas and had some, I've put reasons behind why these ideas might work. And in terms of technology, like social media and things, I've always been met with overwhelming support, which is unique, I believe.
Which is why the company that you work for is incredibly successful.
Correct. I do believe that. Yeah, and I think you're right. And I think to the point where I've had incredible support by people I never would have expected support from, like the original founders of the company.
Yeah.
Which is very, and this is the crux of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
I feel inspired and I feel happy.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm doing something good.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more special than being told by people, because we all have this, by people who have been in any industry for a long time and being told you're doing a great job at.
Yeah.
And they may not completely understand it.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like, I don't completely understand many things that go on. However, for them to turn around and go, look, you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
Is there any way I can help? And they do help.
Yeah.
Nothing means more than that. And that is how you inspire your workers.
Yeah.
Not several media news outlets who spew negative rubbish about this generation all the time.
Yeah.
That is not how you inspire a generation or get them to do good work.
Yeah.
And
No,
that's it.
I couldn't agree more. And the other thing is when you look at all these wonderful articles about millennials are killing this industry, or millennials have killed the print industry, millennials have killed the avocado industry. Millennials have killed the diamond industry. Millennials have killed, I don't know, golf clubs. I don't know. Like we've killed everything.
Very good success rate at killing.
Yeah.
Very high.
That's right. Maybe that's the next article. Millennials wonderful at killing off stuff. But the thing is that again, with a lot of those kinds of things, you sit there and you go, well, okay, but why did we need those things? Why do we need a diamond industry? Why do we need print media? Why, and here's the thing that people need to understand. Millennials don't have short attention spans. They don't. Millennials are used to getting information quickly and getting to the point quickly. Because if they need to know something, they'll jump online and Google it. They'll go and find, information or articles or whatever and be like, okay, that's what's happening. Yeah?
From several different news sources.
Absolutely.
So they can, and usually millennials are pretty good at extrapolating biases. So you see this all the time on very big websites like Reddit and things where a major event would have happened and it'll post several different sources. So it's no longer that, I'm going to read the New Zealand Herald and this is my that's your one point of view. Written by someone who may have a bias or again, as the media often do, they have a target market. So, and again, like we're talking about print media and that it's dying. How can you be surprised that it's dying when the generation that are the ones that are going to be consuming your media is the same generation that you continually detract from, that you continually...
But it's not that, like my issue with print media specifically, or again, a large amount of media, and there certainly are some good media outlets, and there are certainly some good journalists out there that are doing some good work.
Absolutely.
However, a large amount of news these days has become news commentary. It's not news anymore.
No.
It's somebody's opinion on something that's happened.
So what you're saying is it's investigative journalism has waned. Yeah.
Which seems slightly hypocritical coming from the fact that, we're sitting here giving you our opinion on what we think. But
then again, we never pretend to be a serious news source.
No.
We have
exactly
no illusions about that.
We don't put ourselves out there saying, look, we are the only word in what's happening, that we are your first stop for reporting on what's going on. We don't. We sit there and we are quite happy to tell you that this is purely our opinion and this is a conversation between Anthony and myself on things that we're passionate about.
Meticulously edited to make us sound good by producer Caroline. That's right. Producer
Caroline takes 6 hours worth of ranting and tosh and turns it into a 20-minute podcast.
You wish it was 20 minutes. You wish it was 20 minutes.
But this is my beef, right? News commentary. And again, how is it news? Seriously, think about this for a minute. How is anybody who is legitimately putting themselves out there as a credible news source running articles like millennials are a terrible generation and they're killing off, how is a credible news source turning around and going, everybody under the age of 35 is a horrific person?
They're literally one step short of just releasing BuzzFeed top 10. Top 10 reasons why millennials are killing the diamond industry. Like they really are one step removed from that. And to try and pretend.
But again, I mean, you could make the argument, and I suppose on the flip side of that, you could turn around and go, that's what rakes in money. People will click on that sort of stuff. That old clickbait thing. The reason BuzzFeed is as big as it is because people click on that bullshit crap. But again, I'd argue that it isn't millennials. It isn't millennials that are reading top 10 reasons why millennials killed the diamond industry, unless it's to read it to get triggered so they can do podcasts and just rant about
that's an experiment you can do. Scroll down your Facebook friends and count the people who share things like that, who share pages that have white impact font with a black drop shadow on top of a picture trying to get across a political point of view. Count the amount of people who do that and then take into consideration the age bracket. I guarantee you it's not people under the age of 35.
Look, it's the same thing as the ones that you get through on your Facebook feed, going on about Muslim refugees.
Oh, God, give me help.
These get tough on immigration, and Muslim refugees are coming in and destroying our communities, and blah blah blah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not my young friends on Facebook
you addressed
who are
it in
sharing
one
that sort of thing. Yeah.
And again, you addressed it in one sentence, saying immigrants and refugees, and the same sentence is if they're the same thing.
That's right. I know.
Yeah.
I get really quite angry about it.
Yeah.
And very controversially, and I have said this before, what it comes down to is the fact that they're brown, and they think something different. They believe in a different God.
We can't relate to that.
And they're
culture.
brown.
We can't relate to that culture.
Because here's the thing I'd like people to ask themselves whenever it comes to refugees, right? Here's the thing that I would like people to ask themselves. If we take the point, if we centre ourselves in New Zealand, where we are, where the majority of our listeners are, but if you're not listening from New Zealand, I want you to think about a country that you consider to be a brother or a sister country, right? So for us, right, and I talk to my students about this. What would happen if Australia was nuked tomorrow? Or there was massive political upheaval in Australia, people were being killed and that sort of stuff. Would we throw open our borders for Australian refugees? You bet we would.
Absolutely.
And we would take them in, no questions asked, because we'd be like, they're Australians. They're human beings. They're other people. The moment those people come from somewhere else, different colour skin, different religious ideas.
What I find really sad.
What do we do? Oh no, they're terrorists. They're all horrible people. They all want to kill everybody. No, they don't. They're human beings.
Yeah.
Like everybody else. And okay, here's the other thing. The other thing that really gets me wound up, right? If your society and your community is so good, right, so amazing and so wonderful and so right, then surely anybody entering that community would be like, wow, actually, do you know what? These guys have got it right. So even if they came with the intention of harming you in the beginning, they would turn around and go, wow, I've never been part of a fraternity or a community like this, or wow, these guys have got it right. Be the bigger people.
Yeah.
Be the people that again, this comes back to what we talked about when we talked about what do you call it, gatekeeping. If your community is toxic, it's not to do with other people, it's to do with you.
You set the tone.
You set the tone. If the place that you live is racist, you set the tone.
Exactly.
Not other people.
Well, it's classic. Be the change that you want to see. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I absolutely believe the majority of young people are like that. The majority of young people, when you see their interactions with each other online, generally are positive.
They're empathetic.
When you see their outreaches, it's young people that are trying to get greater gun control in the United States. It's young people who are...
They're pushing LGBT.
Pushing LGBT rights. It's young people who are raising money for, tsunami victims or natural disaster victims or those kinds of things. It's young people that are doing that. They're the people that are spearheading those kinds of things, those kinds of change.
It's the difference between being scared of change and embracing it.
Yeah, embrace change. Change is good. Yeah. Anyway,
I think that pretty much wraps it up. Be kind. It comes down to being kind to people,
I know,
doesn't it? Really, I mean, just be kind.
It's insane. It's
just be kind.
It sounds like such a simple thing to do.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, it is a simple thing to do. It is. But it requires you to look at yourself honestly and say, you know what, why? If I have a problem with this, if I have a problem with something like immigration or something like that, strip away all the bullshit, strip away all the rhetoric, and go, why? Why do I actually have a problem with this? Why, you know, are they going to take my job? No, I'm qualified and I'm good at my job. Why is somebody else going to get my job? Are they going to take away a sense of community? Well, no. Most, you know, refugees and things like that come into communities, integrate incredibly well, and become really important parts of the communities that they join. Why do I really have a problem with this? And sometimes it's a hard question to go, actually, do you know what? Maybe I'm not as liberal as I think I am. Or maybe I'm not as accepting as I think I am. And that is a wonderful opportunity for personal growth.
It is.
Yeah?
It is.
To turn around and go, actually, I'm going to confront that little dark thing I have in the corner of my mind, or in the deep closet of my psyche. I'm going to confront that and actually be like, you know what? I'm going to be truthful about this. Truthful about this with myself. And go, this is why I have a problem with it.
If you start sentences with, I'm not X, but...
I'm not racist, but...
Yeah.
Cue racist comment.
Yeah.
I'm not homophobic, but... Cue homophobic comment.
You also find these people are the most unhappiest. Be kind.
Yeah.
So I guess in conclusion, be kind to baby boomers.
Yes.
Be kind to Generation X. Be kind to millennials. Be kind to Generation Y. Don't make generalizations. Don't do that. Be kind to everyone. Just be kind to everyone.
Well said. I like that.
Thanks.
Be kind. Be human.
Exactly.
So, I think that about brings us to an end. Please let us know what you think, or what you thought about what we've said. If you have any thoughts on this, or any thoughts on anything else that you'd like us to know, or like us to talk about, find us on Esoterica Podcast on Instagram or Facebook, or Esoterica Pod on Twitter. We love getting your feedback. We love hearing from you. Love comments, all that sort of stuff. We love engaging with you, community all over the world, apparently, which is exciting. So yeah, thank you.
Have a good week,
everyone. Have a great week.